I just realized it's been a while since we went lo-fi, so I done lost all my chill vibes because I've been playing video game music. But let's come back to how it used to be. Let's go back. Let's go back to the smooth tracks. Yeah, let's do that. Is it just me, or are video games getting way too expensive? And when I say way too expensive, I don't necessarily mean how much we're purchasing them for. I kind of mean how much they cost to be made. What is up, you guys? Welcome to The Collective. My name is Furman, and in this video we are obviously talking about video games and how much they cost to be made. But before we get into that, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more awesome content just like this. Alright, let's get into it. So the initial premise, like the idea from this video, basically came from how many games we've been getting this console cycle. You know, the Nintendo Switch, the PS5, and the Xbox Series X. Like it just, there hasn't really been very many games compared to like what it used to be like in previous generations than that, and then even further back when it comes to like the PS3, the Wii, and the Xbox 360. There hasn't been very many games, and obviously one of the reasons is because of the fact that these games are absolutely gigantic, but it also has something to do with the fact that they're super expensive. Like, these games are extremely costly to make. And so have the games just gotten too bloated, too gigantic, and too expensive? Like, I find myself asking this a lot, because essentially what we traded off is, quality over quantity. And that's the mathematics that we use when it comes to measuring the amount of games that we've been getting. But most of the time it hasn't necessarily been quality. Like, some of these games just have not been very good. Now let's talk about some of these games that are super expensive to make. Look at these budgets, guys. Seriously. This is from a website called medium.com, and this is basically some of the most expensive games that have been made as of recently, Alan Wake 2 was $53.8 million to make. Baldur's Gate was $100 million, which is crazy. I mean, some of these games cost as much as like movies now, which is just insane to think. Grand Theft Auto 5 costed $137 million to make, and apparently it's still counting because of DLC, I guess. So technically it's still, they're still adding to it. Red Dead Redemption costed $170 million. Starfield was $200 to $400 million, which is, youch, that is not cheap. God of War Ragnarok costed around $200 million, and Spider-Man 2 costed $300 million, or 300 plus million, whatever that means. So that is basically how much some of these games are costing. And it's kind of crazy to think, because most of these games are $70, $80, $90, and a lot of the games, like, some of these companies have basically considered, like, didn't do very good in sales. Like, they weren't very good. Like, I think they were saying that about Spider-Man, but it's like, you multiply $70 by a couple million, 2, 3, 4, 5 million, and you kind of technically almost made all your money back. So, technically it was a good investment. Now, it is insane to think that. And I actually, this also reminds me, like, remember Grand Theft Auto 5 when that released? That game made almost $1 billion in the first weekend, which is insane. Like, that is absolutely astronomical. And we have another game like Baldur's Gate, where that game costed $100 million to make, but it has been, it was Game of the Year last year. Clearly, people absolutely love this game. And this is one of the only exceptions where, the game actually got plenty of quality. Plenty. Because that game, the replayability, you could play that game a million different times and still not end up doing the same exact route that you did. Like, it's near impossible to do. So we're not necessarily talking about games like this, for real. Now, I've kind of divided most of these video games into like 3 categories. Category number 1, which is, the online season pass route, which is, a lot of Call of Duties, Street Fighters, like fighting games and stuff like that. A lot of the free games, Fortnite, all of these things. Then there is the AAA game category, which is, games like Uncharted, Hellblade 2 Senua, things like that. God of War, all that kind of stuff. And then there is the third section, which is Nintendo. And actually, you know, we're just gonna kind of lump in indie games in that too, because they kind of belong together. I feel like they mesh really well together. Now, obviously, the category that has been hurting the most when it comes to sales and stuff like that is obviously the one that I love the most. Well, almost love the most. I'd probably put it in second place, but it is the big AAA games. I absolutely love AAA games. I love being able to play games like God of War, you know, all these like narrative driven games like Uncharted 1 and 2, you know. Again, I mentioned Hellblade because, you know, obviously it just came out a few weeks ago and I'm absolutely loving it, even though a lot of people don't like it, but that's fine because, you know, we all have different tastes, whatever. But, you know, this is kind of like the section that is honestly in the most trouble, I guess, so to speak, because there aren't enough players that like that section, and so, you know, the sales are kind of struggling when it comes to that. And, you know, to us, it doesn't really look like they're struggling. A lot of these games are actually doing really good. Taking Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as example, you know, that game sold amazingly, but to Square Enix, it didn't sell very well, so it makes no sense. But yeah, this is the one genre that I kind of think is it's in trouble for two reasons. Like, the first reason was the one that I mentioned before, which is the fact that there just aren't very many players that like those type of games. And two, honestly, there's not much as far as innovation goes. You know, most of the gameplay ends up being very similar and repetitive. And clearly they focused a lot, and I mean a lot, on the visuals. Like, they want this game to look absolutely gorgeous, and it does. Like, even, you know, playing Uncharted 4, that game was just incredible. Like, these are the type of games, you know, like Tomb Raider, these are the type of games that I would just sit there and just like look at the scenery and just study it because of how amazing it looks. So yeah, it is really unfortunate to see that these games are kind of struggling, not doing as good as they could be doing. And, you know, we know the biggest culprit is it's the online games. Everybody wants to play online games. That's like the biggest thing that is in right now. If the game doesn't have a gun and it doesn't have skins and emotes, then, you know, it's just not really a fun game to most of these kids. And yes, I know I am talking big time about Gen Z and a little sector of the millennials too, which you should be ashamed of yourself. But, you know, most of these kids like those type of games. And, you know, who am I to tell them that they're wrong, even though they are wrong? Yeah, I've just never really been too into those type of games. Like, the only game that I play that I know is a waste of money is like Call of Duty. Like, I do end up buying those, you know, if it looks good. You know, Black Ops 6 looks pretty good, so I'll probably end up getting that. But yeah, I typically end up avoiding that section like a plague because I just don't like it, and because I don't like the monetization when it comes to that. I don't like the fact that they basically rip off their customers, and their customers are gleefully joyful and love being ripped off. I mean, you're essentially paying for a skin, which is cyber garbage. When that game is over, you're not going to have it. It's just going to be gone. What's going to happen when Fortnite shuts down? What is going to happen? You're going to take your skins with you? No. It'll be gone. Servers go down, that game is done. Sorry, I got a little carried away when it comes to that because I'm very passionate about staying away from those type of games. But let's get back on topic. Nintendo and indie games. This is probably the section, well, this definitely is the section that I love the most. I mean, honestly. Indie games, because most of these companies that are making these indie games, they're working with a small budget as it is. So, like, one, they're economic. And two, typically they end up being a lot cheaper. Most of the time they are cheaper games, you know, $20, $30, $40 price range. That's excellent. And you're getting your money's worth all the time. Like, that's not up for discussion. These games are absolutely awesome. And then there is Nintendo. Nintendo has kind of capitalized when it comes to this, and it is so genius because nobody really thinks about it, but they're the smartest when it comes to this. Most of their games aren't even really that expensive to make compared to all of these other things, but they sell like hotcakes. I mean, think about this. Mario Kart 8 has, I mean, that game is what? it sold between the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch like 40-50 million at $60, which, you know, we do know a lot of those were on sale, but not all of them. That is billions of dollars, or at least a billion, I believe. It's probably a billion, but, you know, realistically speaking, $2 to $3 billion off of this one game that we've been playing for 10 years now. That is insane, but it is so smart. It is so genius. These games are absolutely amazing, and they are awesome, and they're not that hard to make. Like, they're not graphically, you know, it's not something that's running at 8K 190 frames per second. It's not anything insane like that, but the games are just fun. They're fun and they look amazing. And, you know, I know that these companies would never do that. I know that they'll never backtrack. As much as I would like them to, they'll never do that. But maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe this is the time for them to do that. Maybe it would make more sense to dial back the budgets to make these games not, you know, not necessarily be ugly, but maybe not focus so much on making the most gigantic, gorgeous, absolutely immersive world, and just focus on the quality of the game. Like, quality is not something that's measured by, you know, pixels or graphical fidelity or anything like that. It's measured by how fun the game is, and it's measured by how many hours you can put into it. In my opinion, that's what I think it is. And honestly, if there's any developer that is watching this video, or if, you know, this video could ever reach any of these big companies, this is what I would tell them. Like, if they missed the whole video, if this was the only part of the video that they got, it's that we need to go back to having video games being more about quality and less about graphical fidelity or looking amazing or being the biggest. That doesn't matter very much. Oh, you know, now that I think about it, a perfect example about it is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those games will probably go down as the best Zelda games ever. But there's a lot of Zelda fans out there that still miss the old way Zelda used to be made. You know, the way Ocarina of Time was, the way Wind Waker was, the way Twilight Princess was, the way Link to the Past was. These games, the way they were absolutely amazing. I mean, they just had loads of fun, and we really liked that structure, you know, the dungeons and all that kind of stuff. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild don't necessarily have that. Like, it's just different. It's just a different game. So as much as I love those games, as much as I feel like that story wise is probably the pinnacle, they will never be number one in my books when it comes to Zelda because of that. Because of the fact that the game is just too different. And yeah, I mean, obviously we know that these games are probably what they envisioned way back in like 85 when it comes to like Zelda, like the original Zelda. This is what they were going for. But there's just something special about these older games and how they're structured that just makes them timeless, and it makes them so much fun. Whew, I got a little bit confused there. These tangents are getting out of control. Anyways, I hope this video made sense, and, you know, if it didn't, let me know in the comment section. If you got something out of it, if you enjoyed it, also let me know in the comment section. Alright guys, and as always, do not forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more awesome content just like this. And we will see you guys on the next video. Peace! OMG, look at all these street passes. Look, this was in the matter of like 2 or 3 days, by the way. 2 or 3 days. Amazing.